Hi guys, my name is Arya Shira, and today we're going to go over my lesson plans, that being nouns and verbs. And these are my lesson plans for 4th grade English and Writing and prepared by Miss Arya Shira, which is me. All right, so for our overview and purpose, the purpose of this lesson is to have the students correctly learn what nouns and verbs are. I want them to be able to easily distinguish them and to be able to give me examples if I ask them to. This will help them in their writing as well as their reading comprehension as we reach a higher level of reading in 4th grade. So 4th grade is where we start writing a lot more, and I want them to know exactly what they're writing to be able to write at a more advanced level. Also, we're going to be reading bigger novels in 4th grade, so I want them to understand what they're reading, and yeah, I just want them to understand nouns and verbs. And the activity that we will be going over in this lesson plan will help them in preparation for their upcoming grammar quiz and test at the end of the month. Okay, next is our objectives. So first, I want the students to be able to identify nouns while reading. 2, identify verbs while reading. And 3, write sentences utilizing both nouns and verbs. So I want them to practically be professionals on nouns and verbs. I want them to really understand what they are. Next, the materials needed. I say a pencil and a journal. If the student doesn't have a journal, just a sheet of paper at least. I want them to be able to write things down. And as for the pencil, I would prefer a pencil so that they're able to erase their mistakes because I know there will be mistakes as we're learning new things. I don't really prefer students to write with pens. If they do, I suppose it's not the end of the world, but I much rather would prefer them to write with pencils. Next, we have the steps to check for student understanding. So, number 1, do you understand the difference between nouns and verbs? Number 2, can you identify the nouns and verbs in the sentence? And number 3, can you write a sentence using both nouns and verbs? So, if the student can understand the difference, can identify the nouns and verbs in the different sentences, especially in the activity, and if they are able to compose their own sentences utilizing both nouns and verbs, then they will do impeccably on the exam. Now for the activity, I would like to put students into groups and assign them to a specific station. So, maybe about 4 to 5 stations depending on how many students are in the class and how many table groups there are. So station 1 over here, station 2 over there, and just kind of around the room. Then at each station, there will be 3 slips of paper with a different sentence on them. So these slips of paper will be in a cup or a bowl or something of that sort. And an example of one of the sentences is Sally ran to the store. And then this is where the journals and the pencils come into play. In the student's journals, the student must identify what the nouns and the verbs are in each of the sentences, because there will be both nouns and verbs. And I would personally like the student to actually go ahead and write out the entire sentence and then to write which ones are the nouns and which ones are the verbs. And yes, they are allowed to work together. I wouldn't say this is an independent activity. We'll get to that in a second. Yes, I would like the students to work together and to help each other out. All right. After the students are finished identifying the nouns and the verbs in the 3 sentences in their station, they will rotate to a different station and repeat with another three slips of paper. So everyone will rotate. They're not going to just rotate when their group is done. I would say all the groups have to be finished, and then the instructor will say, okay, time to rotate, and then everyone shifts to the station that is nearest to them. Maybe counterclockwise. And this process will continue until all the groups have been to every station. Then once the activity has been completed, we will go ahead and go over the answers as a class, and that is why I recommend the students to write out the entire sentence on every single slip. The sentences that are on each slip of paper, I recommend them to copy those down in their journal or sheet of paper. What they should have a journal, but if they don't, then a sheet of paper. And I also recommend them use a pencil because the students are going to correct their answers in their journal if they got an answer wrong. So for guided practice, one of the activities that could take place in the classroom is creating a chart with everything that the student loves. So an example would be running, and then the student has to then identify if what they love is a noun or a verb. So they could put dogs, cats, food. And honestly, I would recommend the students creating another chart separated with the things that they love, nouns and verbs. So in verbs, running would go here, dogs would go here, and so on and so forth. And they should probably create at least 5 things. And then the student must create 10 sentences, and each sentence should describe the thing that they love. And this must consist of both nouns and verbs. This will help with their writing and with understanding nouns versus verbs. And then another activity that can be done as a class is printing out lyrics from popular songs, an example, Taylor Swift, or any other popular artist. And you can go ahead and ask the students who their favorite singers are, and this would make this very interactive and fun activity, as these students most likely listen to their favorite songs rather than studying for English or any other classes. So this would make it really fun, a really fun studying and learning lesson. And of course, make sure that these songs are age appropriate for 4th graders. And the way that this activity would work is the instructor could have maybe like 5 lines of a song and put it on the projector, and they can go ahead and call on students to identify what the nouns and verbs are in each line. Alright, and then we have independent practice. The student can do this on their own in class or homework. I would highly recommend that the student does as much homework as possible so that they can really take this home and reflect on what they learned that day. So one of the activities that a student can do independently, either inside or outside of the classroom, is create a list of nouns from things that they can see, whether that's indoors or outdoors. Actually, maybe this could be a classroom activity that they work on independently. We can maybe go outside and they can find things that they see, find nouns that they see. So my example was a student goes outside. They must identify 10 nouns that they can find outside. For example, a tree, as you can see in the little icon I put right by the title. I think this would work well as an in-class assignment as well as a homework assignment. Maybe it could be both. Maybe. Yeah. And then another activity that the students can do independently is keep track of as many verbs that they do in one day, and this would definitely be a homework assignment. So, for example, when the student goes home and eats dinner, they can write down eat as one of their verbs that they did that day. Or if they brush their teeth, they can say brush teeth. And the students need at least 5 verbs, and let's say whoever gets the most verbs wins a prize. All right, well that concludes my presentation of my lesson plan of nouns and verbs, and I hope this was really helpful. Thank you.